good morning, and thank you very much, Drew, for bringing me back on to BBTV. This morning I'd like to share with you a little talk that I've entitled How Being Yourself Will Boost Your Energy and Make You a Better Leader. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you've come across a legitimate fork in the road, something like this? And you look at it, and sometimes you don't know whether there are 2 or 3 or 4 multiple options ahead of you, and which road to take. And you know that the road you take will define your future. The subject of my talk this morning, hopefully, is going to give you some idea, some impetus to take a selection that will define your future. It'll be strategic, and it might also be a zone of discomfort. It's going to take a little bit of a nudge to move you along. My hope also is that it's not the kind of life-changing experience that I had to go through that nudged me to make that decision. The story I have to tell you is about 20 years ago. I was running Redken worldwide. We were in 40 countries, booming, with growth that was double the industry size, and everything was great. And I was looking forward to going to Paris to make a presentation about the future 3 years of Redken around the world. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was in my office as usual rather early, around 7, and I'd gotten things organized, a few conference calls with Paris. And as the morning wore on, all of a sudden I looked to my right, and I was in this beautiful corner office in Midtown Manhattan. And I looked out, and I saw something that really boggled my mind. I immediately called in Marianne, my assistant, and she said, "Minter, there's been an attack." Within a few minutes, my office was filled with people looking over and aghast at the view that we all know, and most of us looked at through television screens that have been replayed and replayed. The difference for me is that I got to see this looking directly out of my window. And this is a photograph that I took when I had a little bit of a moment to myself before 9 o'clock on that Tuesday morning. And it occurred to me that I was going through a fulcrum moment. And there were two thoughts that went through my mind. The very first is entirely personal. And I was thinking back to my grandfather, who had been studying. And for those of you who know, I did a film and a book called The Last Ring Home about his experience in the Second World War. And on the morning of 8th of December 1941, he was captain of a ship, a tugboat called the USS Napa, based in Manila, in Manila Bay in the Philippines. And early in the morning, he was roused. "Hey, we've been attacked at Pearl Harbor." And it's at that moment that he went into the logbook and he wrote a message into the logbook by hand. And that message said, "Received word that hostilities with the Japanese Empire had started." Wow. Can you imagine what he felt like with the responsibility he had for the men on his ship, his thoughts about his family, his wife, his 2 kids back home, including my father, of course. And there I was thinking that maybe this was my similar moment. The second thought I had was that here I was running Redken, selling shampoos to hairdressers. And I really had to pause and think about, what am I doing? What is meaningful about what I'm doing? And although I didn't do it overnight, I certainly came to feel that I needed to be more missionary about what I was doing, to make what I selling shampoos to hairdressers more important. Thus began a big change in my life. As you know, we are living in these changing times, as well as Bob Dylan famously wrote. These times, they are changing. In fact, what I think is interesting about this is actually we have seen that time has changed. The way that we evaluate time. There's something like a slowdown for some, an incessance to it. For some, there's been a big gain because we don't have to go to work and we can spend an hour and a half, not in a commute, but thinking about what's important in life, a time for self-reflection. I know that I did, and during this time I had moments where I really felt the need to layer in on what was important in my life and think about what am I doing and how can I be more impactful? How can I do things that are more meaningful? It certainly didn't mean that everything I did had to be meaningful, but I was certainly feeling that this sort of Instagram life we live, where we tend to try to project this really perfect life. Well, I wasn't interested in having that blah, 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 no, fake Instagram life. There's that t-shirt that says, hey, there's me on Instagram. I wish my life were like that. And I think that a lot of people have come to see through this idea of the blah, blah, blah of social media to take for starters. And then there's this idea at work, we've got to really rush to perform and make the exact right target and be perfect in the way we score, hit that bullseye every time, and that's what's important. Well, of course you need to perform, you need to have food on the plate and bring in the results. But this idea of performance for performance's sake, being number one for being number one's sake, doesn't seem to resonate quite as much, at least not with me. What I've observed in a lot of my conversations with people and best I can in this locked down world is that there's been an increased search for meaning. Why am I doing what am I doing? There's been, we're in this hyper-connected world, there's been a search for greater connection. I've had some extraordinary conversations with people that I don't think that are normal in the prior times, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue to have those types of deeper connections in work and outside of work for that matter. And the third thing I see people needing to belong. We've been isolated, we feel detached, disconnected, so we want to belong to communities, and this presents a great opportunity for brands, in my opinion. So my hope for you this morning is to think about deeply what is meaningful to you and lean into that, because this will be the way, the source to energy, and I'll explain that in a moment. But what I'm encouraging you to do is don't wait for a life-changing moment to do it. Think about doing it now. And don't be like me, because at some point, I don't know if you know, but I have a French citizenship, and so I am a legitimate frog. And I've been sitting sometimes in that boiling water. It got hotter and hotter, and I didn't know about it until I had that réveil, that moment on the 11th of September 2001 in front of me. So the encouragement I have is I articulated around this idea of finding your North Star, finding your direction. And of course, it's not a destination. It's just a direction, a means of going through all these changing, turbulent times, managing the storms that we're in, because we will continue to have storms, even once we've settled past this pandemic. How do you do that? You might be asking. Well, here's what I like to do. I like to look for signs, things that help stimulate me, nudge me, if you will. There's a book, I was a literary student at a university, I studied trilingual literature, and one of my favorite authors was Marcel Proust. And he wrote these series of 7 books, which is called In the Search of Lost Time. And the first one is called Swan's Way. And there's this marvelous, number of times that swans appear in this book. And it occurred to me, it was something that was revealed to me, if you will, through the teacher that I was doing it with. He said, Les signes sont dans les signes. Well, this is French, and it means the signs are in the swans. Les signes sont dans les signes. And what you can do is you can look at disparate objects, different signs, and connect the dots. And this is something I like to do, and it's helped me establish more about who I am. So I want to tell you another story about how my signs came together, my swans, if you will. And it happened when I was doing my tour, film festivals for my film, The Lost Ring Home. And I was in this beautiful city of Charleston. I had arrived early in the morning, and I decided to go for a run. I had jet lag, so I decided to go for roughly a 6-mile run. It's a very woody, lovely green town, as you can see. And as I was running along, I came across 2 different things. In short order, I ran over them, and then I went back and said, what was that? And it wasn't like I was looking for this. I just I felt the need to stop, pick up what it was. And these 2 objects looked like this. And in fact, this is they that morning. And I took a photograph in the hotel room after I'd done the run, because the sign, the elevator sign was there, and this bungee cord, or whatever you call it, I had wrapped it around my waist and brought it home. And I was on the phone talking with my wife, I remember, and I was just looking at these two things which were in front of me on the table as I was talking with her. And I was like, what are they saying to me? And I felt like this was a moment for me to crystallize what my purpose was. And the important thing when you think of a purpose, a North Star, is to make sure that it is both personal and professional. It's not something you just want to have purpose at work. You need to make sure that it resonates with you at a deeper level inside of you. So my encouragement, my hope with you, is to go out and find your North Star. Of course, it's not the North Star, because that means everyone's going for the same thing, but it's your North Star. And this means focusing on you, taking the time to reflect on yourself, what's important to you, and how are you going to define your life story. So this is the fork in the road that I want to present to you. And I'm going to give you a method to do that, if you will, which I call finding your north. So what does it look like? Well, everybody has this idea of a north. The problem is it's a rather general idea. We want to be happy, we want to be healthy, we want to be wealthy, all these ideas. And the problem with that type of a north is that something that pretty much everybody wants to do. I'm thinking you would want those three things for sure. So the challenge you have is that when you have such a wide idea of what you want to do, it's not crystal clear for you, your future that you can define. You end up doing lots of things. So these lots of tasks might be read a book, listen to this lecture by this weird chap on BBTV, go meet somebody, travel to a place, start something up, change jobs, and you do all these activities, and you're really busy, and you have great intentions, and you design them because that's what you want to do. You want to progress towards your north. But the issue is that you're doing all these things, and not for lack of desire or intention, but you don't get to where you want to get to. You get frustrated. And worse yet, you can get burnout because you're doing so many things, hustling and bustling, but it's just not getting you there. So my encouragement is to think about a more precise north, one that defines you, one that is yours, one that resonates with you, with really specific words that have meaning for you. And in this manner, when you have a tight north, you can say no to certain of these activities that individually might be interesting, that you can justify. And then, when the activities you have left, when you are doing those, the great thing is about them is that first, it's going to be much more efficient and effective to getting to your north. And most importantly, you'll know why you're doing them, and that's going to bring back energy to you. Now, this is the idea that I have. Make your north more precise, that reflects you. It's not a magnetic, perfect, precise north. It's your north, with your words that mean what you want to do with your life, who you want to be. And it's important to think about it as a direction, not a destination, because of course it's an organic process and you're going to live through more torment and turbulence and things are going to change. But it helps you to take your course, navigate a course through these changes, create your direction. That becomes who you want to be. But the key there is to not just flash right next to what you're going to do, but to think why that direction is important to you. And the way to articulate that is to select, for example, amongst the 75 different values that are out there, just 3. And those 3 words could be integrity, family, and innovation, or whatever. But then you need to make those words have specific meaning to you and articulate them in the form of behaviors and actions that make sense to you and crystallize that. And once that's clear, then you make the connection with the direction to know why that's important to you. But it's not enough to finish with that. You need to go down south. And there you need to see what is stopping you from getting to your direction. What are your limiting beliefs like, oh, I could never do that. I don't have an MBA. Or I could never do that. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. And you need to lean in to see if you're prepared to pay the price to get to your north. Because it does mean sacrifice. It means stopping some certain activities. Maybe it means changing the way you do things. And it's only then, when you know your direction, you know why it's important, you have eliminated the limiting beliefs and blockages that are stopping you from getting there, that you think about how you're going to get there. And the challenge is we've been brought up to think about this immediately, had to get our action plan, because that's the way we're programmed, with a list of things to do. And my encouragement is to stop and think about who you are, what's important to you, and give yourself the gift of time to think what's important to you. Because otherwise, we're just going to rush. At the end of the year, we will have done many things, but there is a chance that we'll be frustrated and we won't have succeeded. And I would like if we can avoid this issue of burnout, which is why we need to have energy. And if you're doing things that matter to you, they will bring you back energy, even if they take a lot of energy to do. So what I'd like to do is tell you what as I was mentioning before, my elevator and my bungee cord, I don't know what it's actually called, which was around my waist. And I'm sitting in that room in Charleston, South Carolina. And I wrote down on a piece of paper what I was reading from these signs that came to me. And this is the message that I had: to elegantly elevate the debate and connect people, dots, and ideas with that cord. So that's why I call myself an author, a speaker, and an elevator. Yeah, that's what it means to me. And that's what I try to insert into every part of my day. Just at least some part of my day needs to be about this idea of elevating the debate and connecting people, dots, and ideas. And my hope is that you can go out there and find your swans, your signs, your signals. So in terms of adding a framework, which I have in my new book about leadership, which is called You Lead, I've put this in, and these are the 5 attitudes and values that you can bring into your life, in your work, as well as at home, because it's all about leading you as an individual. And I use the CHECK, C-H-E-C-K, because you can't see the K behind me. So this is called the CHECK framework, and I'm going to run through what this means. So the C stands for curiosity. And it's amazing how we're so tired, but learning can be a great source of energy. You need to make sure you're disciplined, though, in the way that you are seeking out what you know and don't know. And here's the thing. So many of us go out there and seem to soak up what we want to know, not what we need to know. So lean in and think more carefully about what you need to learn about. The second one is humility. And this is the humility to know that you can't know it all. In fact, you obviously never will know it all. Go from being a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. And in this, ask for help. I was brought up with this idea of stiff upper lip, and that, I should be intelligent and know all these things. But it's remarkable how lovely it feels to help other people. So think about that. There must be other people out there who would love to give you a helping hand, to learn what you need to learn, or to help you in your business or whatever. The third one is empathy. And for those of you who know me, of course, this is one of the things I keep on drumming. I saw the other day that it's a vastly growing term. People are hugely interested in this term. And I really think that it's a wonderfully valuable tool, both in the home, with your friends, with strangers, and at work. The thing with this, though, I also like to promote this thing of understanding self-empathy. Understand that you too can have bad days. And it's okay not to be okay. Even with all the bravado, stiff upper lip that we were taught to have, some days I don't feel so great. Even though I get up early, there are days when I certainly don't have that kind of zest, that energy. Recognize that, and that'll help you to lead and work with others better. The fourth is have courage. This is a value that I learned, or I dug in on, if you will, for thinking about all the people who fought in the Second World War. I interviewed 130 veterans, and my goodness, do I feel that some days I'm completely uncourageous. So what I've tried to do, and what I want to encourage everyone to do, is to have the courage to stand up for what you believe, which means that sometimes you may unfriend some people. You need to do things which you feel have integrity with you, and it may not please everybody. So you may stand out. But by the way, that can be a good thing in business. So the real encouragement here is to stand up for what you believe in, your values, and that will help you to stand out. And the last one, the K that's behind me over here, wherever it is. The K, that stands for karma. It's probably the least understandable, the least recognized, and certainly not the most talked about in business. And the idea isn't just about life's a bitch and you get what comes back to you. It's about having good intentions and solid actions to follow up. Give without expecting return. You have to check in and make sure your intentions are good for the greater good outside of you. Follow up with actions, hopefully as best you can using empathy to make sure that they are the right actions. And then see what happens. First of all, I think it gives me energy when I give help, when I give good advice, when it's valuable and makes one person change. In fact, if this morning one of you does one thing, that's great for me. That's really all I'm looking for. So there you have it. My check framework. So I'm going to finish with asking you to find your star, your North Star, if you will. There are many out there, many more than you need. Just find the one that relates to you, that resonates with you. Use words that take some time to craft. Check words. Maybe ask some friends, do these words resonate with how you view me? Because it's okay to ask for help, right? Anyway, thanks for listening this morning. It's been a great pleasure. These are my books and my film, and I've got my new book, You Lead, available on all wonderful sites. And I'd like to do a little call out to bookshop.org, which is a wonderful new initiative that started last year, which is helping independent bookshops, because you know how bad they're feeling. Otherwise, of course, it's available on Amazon and on Kogan Page. Above me, you have my different ways of connecting. I have a podcast, I'm on Twitter, and I blog regularly on minterdial.com. Thanks again, and I look forward to exchanging with you on BBTV, hosted by Andrew Ellis.